say equal is equal for about 5 seconds and fair is an opinion. They're going to make it up. They're going to anticipate. They're going to perceive it. I don't want to know the answer. I'm afraid of the answer.
Patty, why do a lot of folks, we're not going to get into statistics today. We agreed upon that, pinky swear. But there's lots of folks that don't have this conversation. Obviously, Chris's family did, for better or for worse. It sounded like it turned out good. But why would anybody avoid this?
I think there's a few layers to it. Number one, I think it's culturally acceptable to keep plans private, secret, in terms of estate. And so historically, like kind of generationally, like my parents didn't tell and their parents didn't tell and their parent, that kind of repetition. And so like I remember sitting across from a farmer that I shared these 3 questions with him, because this is a script I developed a very long time ago and have used it with hundreds of families. And I shared it with this gentleman and I said, have you talked to your children about what their expectations are? And he said, you can do that? And I'm like, literally he believed you weren't allowed or weren't permitted. Like it literally never occurred to him. So that would be the first layer, is like, never even occurred to them. That's not what we do. That's not the repetition. The other thing I would say is there's a lot of fear in the world. There's the expectation that the desires will be unreasonable or unexpected, specifically if it's not possible to be balanced, if it's not possible to whatever equal means. I always say equal is equal for about 5 seconds and fair is an opinion. So if we're seeking that, we're highly unlikely to achieve it. But if this doesn't feel reasonable amongst your heirs and you don't proactively talk about it, they're going to make it up. They're going to anticipate, they're going to perceive it. And so that fear of their response, parents just like, well, I won't be there anyway. So how do you imagine that's going to go?
Well, I love that nature abhors a vacuum, and obviously we're making up stories in the absence of hearing from those that have the facts or the truth. Elaine Fraser is saying, Chris, your parents should do a documentary short to encourage other farm parents. Do you think they'd be open to being YouTube stars or CBC?
Patty's laughing. She's met my parents. I love the idea, Elaine, but hard no.
Reality TV gone wrong. It's too much. It's too much, Elaine.
That's another layer. There's another layer in there. So the number of people that I will say I have spoken to about this that absolutely have an experience, it's incredibly valuable. Amplifying it would be super helpful. Not a chance, right? It's deeply sensitive. It's fragile. It's fraught with minefields, including the ones we make up in our brain. Okay.
Yeah, I think of all the hurdles here, like even just asking these questions and actually listening, not doing it as a token or just totally disregarding immediately what they said, discounting it, diminishing it. But can you ask these questions and can you listen and can you internalize it and say, I might not even have to act on it. What I love about this too is that it doesn't have to be financial. Like actually it's a financial protection to that which provides generational wealth, the land, the farm. Because there are downsides, and I became aware of that in the process that we went through, that this has to happen in such a way that everybody gets along for the benefit of the farm to go forward, or it might not. And you likely see that all the time where the farm can't go ahead because of these kinds of squabbles with the siblings.
Right. Estate litigation, they talk about it being the fastest growing area of law. Like there are ways that people respond when you're gone, and it's not ideal. But I will say you have unexpected outcomes intercepting with grief, and it's very complex. So to back up the bus completely, why would you do this in the first place? I commit that your non-farming siblings or children are likely to have feelings about this, whether you ask for it or not. So how might you give it a platform? Well, the first step, and the risk is if whether someone read these questions or not, the risk is that they're like, I don't want to know the answer. I'm afraid of the answer. They're going to demand too much. They're going to ask for something that's not possible. But the first step is, I am not giving you authority over this plan. I'm not saying what you say will happen, but I care to know how you feel. Set that table and then start asking the questions. And lo and behold, it asks your heirs to step into your shoes, which they are unlikely to do because as kids, they're like, well, my parents are going to let me know. They're going to take care of me. They always do. And we get, again, all these assumptions that do damage.
Well, let's ask a question of the audience here. And sorry, not to cut you off, Chris. We'll let you rock and roll here. But should non-farming siblings be included in succession conversations? Absolutely. It depends, and not necessarily. And Patty, I'm going to ask you for your over-under on what percentage say absolutely. How many of folks would say absolutely? But Chris, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to build on this whole thing with 3 questions, and Dan, you touched on it. Going through this process and saying, well, I asked the questions and I didn't get any results. Yeah, but did you listen to the answers? Because it sounds facetious, but I've seen it 1,000 times. Whether it's through the sales process or just these conversations with different families, people ask questions, but then they've already got the answer before they've asked the question, right? So listening to that answer is so critically important.
We inherited let's be real. We inherited so many listening skills from our ancestors who came here and settled the land. They were expert listeners. They really had communication skills extraordinaire as they were plowing. They were listening.
Some are better than others, but it wouldn't be something they're known for. It's fair. The other thing that I would comment on is people may have perceived that they have asked these questions.
Right.
But part of what I would encourage is send these questions to your heirs ahead of time so they can percolate and digest and schedule a conversation. Because these are big brain, deep questions that they may have never considered. They don't like to consider because it involves death, but it's like, no, like I really want to hear what you think. So if you are sincere about this, here's how set the table, give them the questions, and then come back and have that conversation. But then also be prepared to revisit it because lives change. Needs change, expectations, desires, what they could be interested in. Again, we're not giving them control over it, but we care to hear their perspective so that they can be heard and feel like they're connected to what they emotionally often feel connected to.